You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your hosts, Thomas Ahrens and Jared Mounts. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning? We are live from the Raleigh Fishing Expo. This is day number 3 here. Let's get a little mic check, how we all sound right here. I know it has been an absolutely crazy weekend dealing with some crazy weather conditions, but we're here, we're having a good time, we're enjoying ourselves, and we have our first guest of the day. Sir, if you'd like to introduce yourself to everybody, what you do and what you're doing here.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I'm Captain Brian White. I run the Wave Runner out of Juan Cheese Marina on the beautiful Outer Banks of North Carolina. We're mainly a 6-pack charter boat. We really enjoy fishing. It's been a lifetime dream for me. As most people try to say they live their dream, I truly do. I'm living my dream ever since I was a kid. This is what I wanted to do, and it's very special to me.
How did you get into it?
My family used to go to the Outer Banks for vacation, and my dad really struggled and worked hard, but he always made sure we could go fishing. And we charter a boat every year, and it's something I've always wanted to do ever since I was a kid. Got out of high school, moved to the beach, lived in a man's shed, went fishing. It was amazing.
Growing up in that environment, I bet you've seen a lot of changes with not only just tourism, the fishing pressure, things like that. What are some big things that you reflect on that have changed over time?
The style of boats that we're fishing with now. I mean, there's not many there's not many $200,000-$300,000 old school charter boats anymore. You know, you got these guys that are rolling in there, and it's no disrespect meant by it, but you know, you take a $4 or $5 million private yacht and you stick it in a charter fleet, and you know, it's kind of hard to compete with a man that's got a $5 million boat, and you know, it's just a different ball game. The boats have changed. You know, definitely the pricing of the game has changed. It's a lot of money for people to do it, which puts a lot of pressure on us as the captain to, you know, produce. It's been a lot of changes. It's a lot of different marinas now. There's over 240 charter boats in Dare County where my boat is tied up.
That's insane.
And, you know, you got the guys that do it part-time. You got the guys that are trying to do it for a living. It really makes it hard. It's just a different industry than what we had 25 years ago.
I mean, I guess based on what you're saying and me having little information on this specific niche in the fishing market, there's no cap on guides. Anyone, in theory, if you get all the licensing and permitting, could become a guide, correct?
If you've got a United States Coast Guard 6-pack license, you can be a charter boat captain. Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason for it, but that's what it is. It's anybody can get in the game.
Okay. What do you generally specialize in? If people wanted to come down to the area, what would you say this area is best known for when it comes to saltwater fishing?
Our tuna fishing is you know, first class, and we have some of the best marlin fishing in the country here at times. There's days you can go out there and catch double-digit sailfish, white marlin. It's an amazing fishery we have north of Cape Hatteras. It's just the bottom contour is just right for the tuna. We fish way up into the northeast for the white marlin in late summer, and it's just we're really blessed, really blessed.
How far offshore are you running? I know from having people on the show talking about like Ocean City, you have to go way, way off to hit the shelf.
Yeah, those guys, because if you look at the contour of the beach turns out. Where the further off you get, the further the beach lays in, the further the Gulf Stream is out from you.
Okay.
Them guys are running, you know, 60, 70 miles to get to the edge of the continental shelf. There's a spot outside of us right east of the inlet. We can be on the 100 fathom curve in 28, 29 miles.
Oh, that's not too bad.
An average day for us would be 35, call it 35 to 36 miles. And there's some days we're off of there 50 miles. You know, you go where you need to go. But on the average, about an hour and a half, hour and 40-minute boat ride from the dock, you lay your riggers out and go to work.
How is the technology game? Because we've talked about this in bass fishing forever, side scan, forward-facing sonar, lithium batteries. What has that done to your industry and your field? Well,
right now I'm just trying to talk my wife into letting me borrow some money to put a sonar in my boat. Probably ain't gonna happen this year. That's the latest and greatest technology now. The Omni sonar. It's like a periscope on a submarine, but instead of it popping up above the surface, it goes out the bottom of your boat. We have a word for it, but I can't put that on the air. Anyway.
Interesting.
It's an amazing piece of technology. It's changed the game, marlin fishing. My first mate was on a boat and they caught a fish and won a lot of money up in Ocean City here right many years ago. And they chased the fish over 7 miles before he bit. They
Good
just
Lord.
followed him around until he got hungry.
Oh my God.
So it really changed the game. You can see tunas that normally, you know, normal sonar is shooting straight out under the boat in a cone. This thing is spinning 360 degrees and you can change the angle of it. If you get a bite and you stop your boat, regular sonar, you don't know where the fish went that you just got a bite out of. With that Omni sonar spinning 360 degrees, you see exactly where they went. You just turn and go right back over them again. It's an amazing product, but it's an awful lot of money. Awful lot. You're talking upwards of over $100,000 for one of these.
Holy God. My God. And the power consumption on that thing's got to be insane.
Well, you can get them in different voltage. You can do 24 volt, which some of the guys have. And the other guys have them where they run off a generator, 110 volts. So it's a big investment. I mean, it's half of what some of our boats cost for just for a piece of equipment. But it's gonna become a piece of equipment that you just about have to keep going. You know, it's like anything else. A lot of us didn't want cell phones when they come out, but now everybody has them. Same way with these sonars.
I've had a ton of biologists on the show talking about the Chesapeake Bay specifically because that's my generic area.
Right.
I'm on the Black Bass Advisory Board for Maryland, so we talk constantly about these things. And I have their perspective on how things are changing in the bay and the oceanic striper population. But besides the striper, you're actually out there every single day. And I think a lot of times people don't respect guides as much as biologists. And it's not all biologists, but they turn the nose up at it. But you guys are out there every single day. You see what's going on out there. Are you seeing any changes in the migratory behavior of some of these fish species?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you could just bank on the tunas April, May, and June, right on the middle of July. And our biggest thing that we fight now is sharks. You know,
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
You hear these people, there's a shortage of sharks. Got to protect the sharks. I'm all about protecting any species that needs protecting. But when you're trying to convince somebody to spend $2,000 or $3,000 to go on an offshore trip, that's a challenge in itself. And then you take them out of there and you hook 5 tunas and the sharks eat all 5 of them, and your party looks at you like, what in the world just happened? And you're like, well, the sharks have been really bad. Well, you're really going to be hard pressed to get them folks to come back next year and go with you to go feed sharks. There's days you absolutely cannot get a fish to the boat because of the shark problem. And nobody wants to talk about the number of sharks.
Why do you think that is?
They've stopped these guys that had permits from longlining for them because they said they were endangered. Well, they're just like little rabbits, they lay out there and breed. Nothing hurts them. The honest thing that keeps them in check were human beings. They're at the top of the food chain. And when you don't keep a certain number of those, sustained, you're going to have an explosion in population. And now that's what we have. I mean, I have a friend, Tommy Dancheese, commercial fishes. He was talking to me the other day, and I was like, what are you going to do today? It was blowing and nasty. He's like, I'm going hang net. He said, last day we fished, we went to pull the nets, fished the nets back. He said, the sharks eat holes right on through my nets, eating the fish that was in the nets. But, you get all these people that tell you there are no sharks are endangered. No, they're not. Maybe certain species of sharks are endangered, but the ones here, I personally wouldn't get in the water here if I had to.
Is it a specific species that you think are following boats? I'm trying to get somebody on from Florida to talk about a bull shark problem that they have down there because they're everywhere.
Duskies, we have a ton of duskies out there. Big old brown sharks. I mean, you see some hammerheads and stuff. I mean, you'll see them in packs of hundreds. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you there could be hundreds that you see in these packs. And it's just, they really, the marine fisheries needs to lay off of these guys and open this fishery back up and let these guys get these sharks back in check. And then not only for the tunas, they're eating billfish now. Look at what happened at the Big Rock a couple of years ago. The shark took 2 or 3 bites out of a fish and cost a guy $1.5 million fish. It's something really needs to be done to help the fishermen with this and the public. I wouldn't want to swim in the ocean. No, I really wouldn't.
Is it just the tuna that they're following? Is that the biggest problem?
Yes. Our biggest problem is them eating our tunas. And until you go out there and watch it and see it happen in person, you really can't explain it to people. And every day you'll get a bite, and before I can pass the pole down to my mate to give to a customer, it's gone. Shark's got him. And this doesn't happen every single day to every single fish. I don't want to sound like, it's doom and gloom if you go out there. It's not. But we lose a ton of fish to these sharks that could be they're just over-regulated to where these guys can't do anything with them. Really needs to be something done with them.
No,
Absolutely.
That's crazy. A couple of questions here are what are the biggest seasons that you have coming up when it comes to fish runs?
We get cranked up in April. We normally see a good sign of yellow fins and some black fins in April. Water shoved up there. When you get that blue-green water together, a lot of days you can catch some wahoos on the change. Looking into May, we start seeing our dolphin coming up from the southern waters, from Florida and the Bahamas, coming up for the migratory spawning season, where they go right on up north, fishing up the swimming up the Gulf Stream. I'd say May and June would be a mix. You got dolphin and tunas. June's probably one of our better months for the tuna, right on into July. You have to change your tactic on how you fish for them, but there's some days we just strictly troll. There's some days we can throw plugs at them, top water sight cast, and that's an amazing fishery. 60-pound tuna busting on a plug, it's pretty cool. We fish with a green stick. We have a stick on our boat like you've seen on the Wicked Tuna program, I'm sure. We have I have a couple of kites on the boat where we do some kite fishing, and that's very exciting because that's all top water action. And if you've ever fished for bass as a kid growing up, and you've seen a bass blow up on a little jitterbug or a little top water popper, you multiply that times 100, and that's what you got with old big yellowfin. It's pretty cool.
That's absolutely wild, man. I got a couple sword fishing. That was something I just saw on Instagram too. When's the best time to go for swordfish? Is that a thing that's around this area?
It is, and some of the guys are getting into it. We have not really dabbled into it. It's a drifting type fish. You get there, and most of that takes place up in the northeast of Oregon Inlet. Out there, 80, 90, 100 fathoms, 200 fathoms of water, and you're fishing in really, you're fishing down there 600-700 feet, really close to the bottom. You need a big, expensive electric reel to do this. It's a challenge because you got to catch it where you don't have enough current to where you can't fish. And I've listened to several of the guys that have kind of started dabbling with it. The boy that fishes for me has done a lot of it in the past on other boats. We've just never really had a client that wanted to do it, so we hadn't really messed with it any. But they say it's a very unique bite. You would think, old big swordfish, a couple 100, 300 pounder would just bend your pole right over, and they talk like it's almost like a catfish, like a little bink, bink. That's all you see on the pole. Really a little bink, bink. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be pretty cool. I enjoy bottom fishing. That's probably one of my funnest things that I like to do. And if I got the right people on the boat, I'll definitely go bottom fishing in a minute.
And guys, we're gonna get to your questions here in a second. But I had a question. It's like, when you say bottom fishing, what depth are we talking about?
We fish anywhere from 40 to 60 fathoms. So you're talking, 240 feet to 350 feet would be an average for the blue line tile. When in season, you can get out there and that's 600 to 800 feet outside the continental shelf on the drop off and fish for goldens. There's all kind of creatures that swim around on the bottom of the ocean. It's pretty cool to do it.
So we do got a question here. It says, what is the biggest marlin you have ever caught?
Probably 450, maybe 500. I've had a couple of fish on that we never could, excuse me, that I never could do anything with. But as far as landing a fish, get him up there to the boat, 450, 500, I'd say would pretty much take it in for me on billfish.
How long does that take to actually get into the boat?
The last one we caught with Bruce would have probably been an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
And it all depends on the fish. Every fish is different. Once you touch that leader, it's considered a caught fish. If he jumps and you can back to him and you got an angler that can crank, you can crank right up there to him, and it could be 30 seconds, it could be 3 minutes, it could be 3 hours. Every fish is different. Nobody can put a time on this. You never know. But like I said, all you got to do is touch that leader Well, that leader touch your rod tip is considered a caught fish, IGF regulations.
Okay.
And we try not to kill them. I mean, I don't want to kill any marlin. It would have to be a big fish. It would really have to be a big one for me to kill him.
We have a question here from Tim Sheridan on Instagram. He asks, what's the biggest technology improvement that's happened to fishing tackle in saltwater?
The high-speed reels. I mean, and you got these reels now with these 2-speed transmissions in them like a car. You click the button and you go from like a 8 or 10 to 1 to a 3 to 1, and you can, if you get a big tuner that's down there just digging and grinding, you can put her in low gear and you can crank on him just like a winch. It's
wow.
The technology in reels have changed a lot. Like I said, the gear ratio, the type of rods we're using, the type of butts. It's like everything. It's continuously evolving. It never stops. Technology doesn't. Even in the fishing industry. Like I said, go right back to the sonar.
Yeah.
And that sonar has been around a long time in commercial industry. The big commercial seine boats all over the country, all over the world, they've had these for years, but they were so expensive. Even folks with means to buy a $10 million boat couldn't or wouldn't buy them. And now they're, like I said, you're looking Omni sonar. I'd say by the time you're said and done, you're $140,000 to get one.
Good Lord, that's
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
You think about how many charters I've got to run.
Oh yeah.
And again, it goes right back to how much can you afford to spend.
And just getting back to that to balancing a checkbook, gas prices.
Oh my Lord.
I mean, the amount you have to drive and the distance. And I'm assuming, are you going with petrol or diesel with your
my
outboards?
boat is diesel. I got
diesel.
We got a big 1100 horse Caterpillar C18 motor. It's very economical for the size boat I have, but it's still, at the end of the day, you're looking at, $1,000, $1,200 goes out the tailpipe. And, and it costs a lot of money to operate these boats, and that's why it costs a lot of money to go fish on them. And it's a double-edged sword. It truly is.
No, I can believe it. Guys, we got a couple questions on Instagram, but I've done that enough. I got another one here from YouTube, and this is from Southern Point Campground. What's the craziest fish story you have ever experienced that you can possibly talk about on camera?
I would say a blue marlin we caught last year. Crazy as enough, I never hooked him, but we caught him. Again, all you got to do is touch the leader. We were catching dolphin, the little Baylor dolphin, the little 2-pounders, and we were fishing a bunch of scattered grass, and all of a sudden a big explosion happened. The guy hooked the dolphin, and then boom, there goes white water flying everywhere. About a 150, 200 pound rat come up jumping. He had eaten the dolphin the guy hooked, so we never had a hook in the fish, but he was holding on to the dolphin.
Wow.
And I slammed her in reverse, and we went after that thing, and he stayed on top, and we were able to catch right up to him, and on a little bitty dolphin bailing pole, a little PN 209 and 60-pound leader.
Oh my
Boom,
God.
there's a 150, 200-pound blue marlin. Never put a hook in him, but we caught him.
Oh my goodness.
How cool is that?
That's freaking.
I've been doing this a long time. I've never had that happen.
Has anyone asked to try to do some light line stuff or records or just something like that, very sporty?
There's a handful of guys that really get into that stuff. I don't really have a clientele that wants to do that. I would love to. It's I've got a couple guys that do bait and switch with me for white marlin. Ooh. We just go pull plugs and they try to catch them on a fly rod. And that's pretty intense.
That's got to be intense.
It's cool. You got 4 teasers out there on no hooks and nothing. All you're trying to do is get that fish to come up, and then boys start popping the fly rod back there to them with a big old plug, a big old feather, and it's game on if you can hook one.
I've always been curious about this. Since a lot of the species out in saltwater are catch and take, when you have the marlin that are catch and release, how educated do these suckers get over time? Are you running into a lot of times the same fish?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, there's fish that get tagged and 2 or 3 years later are caught, you know. But I don't think. I think their belly gets empty. They got to eat.
Okay, so you're not too boat shy when you try to tease them to the surface?
No. And they get aggressive. I mean, if they want it, they come in there after. You can crank them right up to the stern. They'll come right to the back of the boat with you. It's pretty cool to see.
So,
if you've never been offshore fishing, it's definitely some must-do thing, I would say.
Go check them out, everyone. One more time for everyone at home. If they want to book a trip with you, where do they go?
You can go to our website, fishwaverunnerobx.com, or you can find us on Facebook. It's where we do most of our stuff. Or you can call us 252-216-8350. Love for you to call me. I'm a people person. I like to talk. I'm more of a telephone kind of guy than I am typing. So Juan Cheese Marina is where we keep our boat. An awesome new marina. The Hatchell guys, local people from Manio have. They've really built up a nice marina. They have a little restaurant there. You can go have a cold beer, watch them clean your fish.
Awesome.
Absolutely an amazing little place. Juan Cheese Marina, Wave Runner Sport Fishing. Call us, check us out online. We'd love to have you.
There you have it, everyone. Go check them out. And if you are in the area, come check them out at the Raleigh Expo. We have about a 15-minute break before our next guest, so hang in there, refill your coffee, and we will
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your hosts, Thomas Ahrens and Jared Mounts. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by
Perfection. Testing 1, 2, 3. How's everyone doing? We are back here with our next guest of the morning here at the Raleigh Fishing Expo. We are at day number 3. Sir, how are you doing this morning? I really appreciate you coming in here. Why don't you tell everyone at home what's going on? Do not, if you touch that, the power will die on that thing. Sorry. So if you could just tell everybody your name and what you're doing here.
I'm Steve Lilly. I'm the owner of Towboat US Beaufort. I believe this is our 13th year here at this show. So Towboat US Beaufort, of course, we tow boats. We are part of the nation's largest on-water towing fleet. We stand by 24/7, 365 to assist our members with on-water towing, fuel drops, jump starts.
Show your body.
Okay.
Body. There you go.
Is that good?
Yeah, I see it. I see it in the...
All right, perfect.
So we assist our members with on-water towing, jump starts, fuel drops, soft grounding. We even carry some tools in our boat.
How'd you get into it?
Well, I towed my first boat when I think I was probably 9 years old. And my grandfather was always a member of Boat US before there was Towboat US, and the Coast Guard used to go out and assist people. And I was fascinated with Towboat US when I was a child. Didn't think anything of it. And then I graduated and came back home and saw the Towboat US captains there in Beaufort, the way they operated and the seriousness of it, and they took pride in it, and it kind of commanded respect. I started working alongside with them for larger projects, salvage projects. I was at a marina, and I thought it might be in the works. Then I made the decision to start towing boats, and the second I started towing boats, it didn't matter what the obstacle was. I went after it. Whether we do some tough stuff there in Beaufort, and there's a sense of accomplishment you get by going to get people home.
You said boat salvaging.
Yes, sir.
I'm thinking like Pirates of the Caribbean, you're pulling up a wreck from the ocean. Like, what does that mean by boat salvaging?
So salvage would be a vessel in peril. It could be for a number of reasons. Maybe a high impact, high rate of speed, take it on water, lose some props, shafts, rudders. There's a number of things that could happen to someone on the water, and that's normally, it could be determined instantly. We could hear it on the radio. It could be a mayday call, or it could be something that would be determined on scene. They call it a tow, and there's water coming up on the deck of the boat, 4 or 5 foot. Yeah, so you don't ever know what you're going to get, especially being in Beaufort. They know who to call, that's for sure. But we don't ever know what we're going to get when we get on scene. Our job is to get people home.
So would it be safe to say you're like the AAA for people that are in peril on the water, so to speak? You call, you come to help them out of a bad jam?
Definitely. Just as you would leave your car and you would go to Raleigh or come to the boat show. If you break down the side of the road, you probably want to know that you're going to get home. Well, the same thing with Boat US. If you leave the dock, you don't want to be scared to take your boat out and to enjoy yourself. And not everybody has a friend or whatnot that is able to assist with professional towing, especially at the beach or on lakes here, or we're always standing by, listening to our phones, ready to respond to anyone that needs assistance.
What is the craziest thing you've seen out on the water that you can talk about?
I've heard of a lot crazier situations. It could be a number of things that we don't want to talk about. We hope it never happens, but more in our line of work that we specialize in, just high impact groundings always get me. You know, we've had a couple of boats on autopilot run up on the beach this year. You know, a bit larger boats. That's always puzzling because you never expect it. You don't expect to see a 60-foot boat unattended run up on the beach. Those are that would be one.
What's the hardest thing to deal with out on the water?
The hardest thing probably for us would be that 24/7, 365 watch, which it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. We will operate on a rotation. But also depending on your area or the tower's area, ours would probably be, you know, the sea conditions, and we're always getting some kind of weather event here in North Carolina, whether the wind's blowing 30 knots out of the southwest or you're getting a nor'easter or whatnot, and the boats never stop. We have our summer boaters, but then we have our transits that come through the ICW, and that's the I-95, so they don't ever stop. We have to be prepared to go. We're towing a boat right now, so we're moving at all times, and we have to stay ready.
When you're starting, you wake up in the morning, boom, you're on shift. Is the towboat that you're dealing with, is it anchored at a marina, or is it on a trailer so you can go anywhere? Like, what would your, just specifically say you're on shift, what is your jurisdiction that you're going to be covering?
So specifically, Towboat US Beaufort, we have 6 boats. One is stationed down in Swansboro at Casper's Marina. They cover to the Onslow Swing Bridge. And then we have 5 more boats at Saltwater Marina. One right now is at Town Creek Marina. We float around. We're friends with all of our marinas if sometimes we keep a boat at the boathouse, but we cover all the way to the Pamco, up Adams Creek, all the way down to Cedar Island. You got Core Banks, Cape Lookout, Shackelford Banks. Then you have Atlantic Beach, Emerald Isle, Bogue Sound area, the White Oak, and that goes all the way down to the Onslow Swing Bridge out as far as we need to go.
That's a big area to cover.
It's a big area. We have a squad of guys, 6-man roving crew, and we all do it together.
What's a shift like for you then? You said 24/7. Do you have days off? Like, what would a normal week for you be like, or an employee?
For me personally, I'm always on. You know, I take a day here and there when I need to. I try to take at least a day a week for sure. But the guys, they're on a 5-day shift, and normally at our company we come in around 9 o'clock, and we leave when they let us leave. And like I said, we have a rotation. We have some that are closer to a boat than others, so they know that when they go home, another guy is maybe subbing in. He might start later, and we try to let each other work that out beforehand. If something needs to be worked out specifically, we all communicate with each other. We have a different rotation in Swansboro. We'll have someone sub from Broad Creek area for him to fill in for his gaps. And then if we have one that's been towing for a long time, we can tow for 18 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. Then we'll deal with that to allow that captain to rest up and get himself ready again. And so it does change
That's an insane work schedule that you guys have to be dealing with. How heavy how is it a tugboat can do what it does? Because I'm not an engineer at all. I don't know anything about this, but how does it work?
So different territories, different areas in the country may have certain boats that fit in with their style or their conditions that they have to deal with. We have airboats. We have Tugboat US airboats. We have
what's the name? What, airboat?
Yeah, we have airboats that respond to people up in the seagrass or extremely shallow waters or flats.
Oh, damn.
People chase reds down in Texas. So we have some airboats down there.
Okay.
I think there's one in Lake Okeechobee now. And then we have, we have larger boats. Look at Fort Lauderdale. Look at some of the stuff they have to deal with. Or we have some 41s. More specifically with us, we have 5 27-foot Rhinos. They're aluminum boats. They were made for the Navy. And we just got a new boat, which is a 39-foot silver ship. Coast Guard Miami has one. Coast Guard down in Texas has one. They were made for the Navy. So it's a little easier on our captains to respond to a boat outside the inlet.
Is it a size of the engine that makes it being able to create the torque to drag everything it does? Because you can see these crazy things on TV where they're tugging like an aircraft carrier or something nuts like that. What gives them the power to do that?
So I guess it would depend on the boat. If it's an inboard, you could have a certain gear ratio, a certain prop size, certain horsepower. It depends on that situation. For the most part, what we are dealing with, we can get away with using 250 to 300 horse motors. We like a larger prop. It's better for towing, better for pulling, better for washing water underneath a grounded vessel. Par buckling a boat, you have to par buckle a boat. You have that. Gives us better low end torque.
That's insane, dude. So, if people would like to find you and try to get involved, what do they have to do?
So our local number down in Beaufort is 252-728-5088. You can call us for a membership if you want to sign up. We're running a membership special for new members always. 12 months out of the year. You can sign up for unlimited towing. It starts at $125. We recommend unlimited gold for people that keep their boat at a dock or on a lift. So it allows them to be towed from that dock or lift to a repair facility, plus on-water towing. And then we also have our trailer assist package for new members. It's $10, so that would be $135 for the unlimited and unlimited trailer assist. So if they have any trailerable incident on the road, that's covered as well.
Guys, you got to get this. I mean, it's just when you have it and you need it, you sing a different tune, and it's just you don't want to be out there. And there's some places that are kind of gnarly, Potomac River, places like that. I would specifically say like Potomac, the James, where you could just float into the ocean indefinitely if you have a really bad day. And you don't have any friends that you can call. So, again, go check them out. This is really important to have something like this, just to be safe on the water. What booth number are you guys today? I think you're booth 79, something like that. You're up front.
We're up front. We're right beside the door. So you walk in the door, turn to the left, we're right there.
There you have it, guys. Sir, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. So what we're going to be doing, guys, we're going to be taking another quick break here. We have our next guest coming on in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to go to another quick commercial break. Please hit that like button. It really helps us out in the algorithm. Comment. Let me know what you guys want to be seeing here soon. I'll be checking you out, guys, and All righty, guys, we are back. All right, how's everybody doing? I'm sorry for that little commercial break that we had. We are here with our next guest, Chris of the Sportsman's Club booth that he is here today. He's going to be talking about so many cool things. I'm going to stop talking now, but Chris, could you just introduce yourself and what you're doing here?
Sure. My name's Chris Ivana, and I've been a kayak angler for 10 plus years now, representing the Raleigh Saltwater Sport Fishing Club today. We've been around since 1977. That predates me a little bit. And we are a saltwater club based in Raleigh, North Carolina. A little unusual, but nice thing about it is we have a variety of anglers from boat owners to shore fishermen, kayak fishermen like myself. And we like to show people how to catch saltwater species, ranging from shad and stripers to drum and tuna, so a little bit of everything there. We're kicking off a brand new multi-species tournament this year. It's going to span 10 months and covers 10 different target species and 12 bonus species. It's pretty unique. We'll have 3 different divisions: boat division, a canoe kayak division, and a shore division. And we're basically just trying to get people out fishing more, whether or not they have a boat, whether or not they have a lot of money or a little bit of money, and we'll have some nice prizes available. And if you're interested, please visit the Raleigh Saltwater Club Facebook page or website.
How will that tournament format work? Is it going to be like on an app, catch, photo, measure, release?
Yeah, so basically, I didn't run out of an app this year. It'll be catch, photograph, and release. If you've ever done a bass tournament, it's very similar in that style. You catch a fish, you'll take a picture of it with your little card on the board to measure it, and then another picture with your fish so we can have something to kind of show others what you're catching. There'll be a different target species every month. The first month, which starts in February, is going to be dogfish, which is not something that most people target. It's kind of bycatch, especially if you fish off a pier or boat. But we want to give people incentive to try targeting different species and also to be excited about catching different species. I know if you fish inshore, one of the most frustrating species to catch is like lizardfish or puffer or pinfish. Those are actually some of the bonus species that we have. So you get credit for catching those. So again, it's just it's a good way to promote fishing, get people out fishing, whether by themselves or with friends.
Wow, that's really awesome. How big is that type of tournament format? So, you know, I have a bass boat, I have a kayak, I compete in both genres, so to speak, and I really see the boon of catch, photo, measure, release. Is that in the kayak fishing down here starting to really take hold?
I think kayak fishing is really exploding as a segment in the fishing industry. I got interested in it over a decade ago when I saw my first kayak anglers actually up in Virginia Beach. And I think it's nice because it's so accessible. It gets you off the shore, like to the fish. You can spend as little as a few $100s to get a basic entry-level kayak, or thousands of dollars for something with a motor. But did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, because it is. I see the bass world where it is so expensive to get people involved. Unless you are retired or you have a little extra money, it is expensive to get a bass boat. And I can't imagine with like the inshore saltwater thing. Back in the day, how much it cost to get an effective rig. Plus, where are you going to put it? Like that's a big thing. Is if you have a 22-foot bay boat, you need a place to be able to put that thing. Now you can buy a kayak, completely pimp the heck out of it. I'm going to say spitball under 10 grand, maybe, and you can fit it in a garage. And there's so many, and the access, like you said before, you don't necessarily need a boat ramp. You just need a little kayak slit, and then boom, you can go into shallower water to chase these reds and these specks. It's amazing how this has opened up fishing to a whole new population of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it. People equate, I think, fishing sometimes the more money you spend, the better the fisherman that you are, and I don't think that's true at all. But I do think it's important to have to be able to access the water where the fish are. One of the things I noticed when I started kayak fishing is that if you can get to the fish, no matter what type of boat you have, then you have a better chance at catching them.
No,
And that's what a
100%.
kayak allows you to do.
So how long have you been in the area for?
In North Carolina, I have lived here since 2009. So mostly started freshwater fishing when I got here, and then saltwater fishing the last couple years.
What drew you to saltwater fishing?
I guess I'm a multi-species fisherman naturally. I like the challenge of different species. I also like going to different places. If you've never been out on the marsh or the bay at first light, I mean, it's just it's amazing to see that. And then I think everybody likes the thought of catching something really, really big. The first time I ever caught a bull drum out of a kayak,
Oh my God.
man, that is a memorable experience. So here in North Carolina, they start running up the rivers in late August, and you really don't have to go out very far, especially in a kayak, to catch them. So we like to go out to Oriental, and we'll paddle out into the Neuse River there, anchor up or spot lock, and then you just soak some baits, and you can be fishing a heavy action rod, and all of a sudden when it like doubles over, like all hell breaks loose, and it's on.
That has to be a story there when you caught your first bull red. I mean,
Yeah.
was that a ride?
It's, I like to fish for big catfish, which I do in the winter, and they both get very large, but they fight differently. And those drum, the best way to describe it, it's like hooking into a freight train. But the other thing I really like about them, I mean, they are just some of the prettiest fish that you can catch. You catch something and it looks like all of the scales are brand new copper pennies. And then it, spawns all over you. But still, really enjoy it. And you can also catch a lot of interesting bycatch fishing in the rivers there. Catch some really large stingrays. There are tarpon that go up the rivers there. We jumped a couple of smaller ones this year fishing for the drum, and then a lot of pretty good sized bluefish as well.
Ooh, the tarpon
Yeah.
got to be fun out of a kayak.
I have yet to land a tarpon out of a kayak. I've only jumped the one, but they're apparently around there. They're difficult to catch, but that's on my bucket list.
Have you always had an Old Town, or is that a newer upgrade? Yeah, and that's why we have those there. But have you always had an Old Town kayak, or is that a newer upgrade?
So I've had an Old Town kayak for about 3 years now. Prior to that, I had my very first one was a paddle kayak, and then a pedal kayak, both perception. The Old Town was a divorce present. She got the house, I got a kayak. That's a fair trade. But I really love it. They're great as a brand. Anytime that something has broken, they're very good at responding. And I have taken it everywhere. I've taken it to farm ponds all the way up to the Bay Bridge Tunnel, Virginia Beach.
Wow.
Caught some really nice sheepset out of there. Drum. My goal this year is to land a king mackerel out of it off the beach. So
If people wanted to get involved in saltwater kayak fishing, is there any other precautions you need to take, gear you need to pack to prep for a day out there compared to just going to your local pond?
So it depends where you're going to fish, I think. Usually, like inshore back bay fishing is relatively safe. I mean, you always have to account for weather conditions first and foremost. You can get dumped in a pond in the winter and potentially die there if you're not careful. But when you fish more in the inlets and open ocean, I mean, there's a lot more precaution there. The currents can be really strong. Weather can turn really quickly, and it's good to utilize a buddy system and do your planning before you go.
Is there any gear? Do you have any kind of radio system, dry suit that you wear, or like what would you usually pack?
For like wintertime fishing?
Yeah.
I mean, ideally you use a dry suit. I've had one before. Personally, I found them to be very uncomfortable. They chafe a lot, especially around the neck.
Yep.
So some people use that. I would say a buddy system is good. We always bring handheld VHF radios when we fish
That's
areas
smart.
like that, and then have some way to backup communication, lights. sometimes boats don't see you, especially in a kayak. So you always have to kind of keep your head on a swivel for traffic. And sometimes boats try to hit you. I've had one or two actually like come at me before in a kayak. Yeah.
And that's where those nav lights are just so important to make sure you get decked out on your kayak, especially if you're going to be doing launching in the morning or going to be out in the evening time. I at least know for tournaments that I've fished, it's a necessity. But just make sure you're prepared out there, because boaters can be knuckleheads.
Yeah, and for some reason or another, sometimes they don't like kayaks sharing the same water. So
you can get a drink. That's no problem. Yeah, this is casual today, guys. And then again, come on out to the Raleigh Expo. We are going to be here all day filming and just bringing you guys as many people as possible. We'll come by the booth and talk about what they're doing here and what their story is. It's what we're all about here. How did you get with this club?
So I actually discovered it a couple years ago at this expo.
Cool.
There's a lot of interesting organizations here, and I think one of the things I like the most about the Fishing Expo is, you might come for one thing and then you discover something else here. It's one of my favorite fishing events of the year. I try to come to it every year for that reason, and every time I get something a little different out of it. So just kind of pass by their booth. The people working the booth are very friendly. I've enjoyed the members a lot, and it's been a good experience for me.
Freshwater fishing, cat fishing. I think we talked off air about this with the scope. How did you get into that fight and get that dialed in?
Sure. So I've loved catfishing since I was a little boy. Very first catfishing I ever did were at Pay Ponds back in my home state of Tennessee. And as I got older, you want to graduate to something bigger. Most people start with channel cats, and then you go out with a guide, and maybe they'll put you on some flatheads or blues. And after a couple guided trips, I wanted to learn how to catch my own giant catfish. So I started practicing a couple years ago. My technique involves usually catch white perch or some crappie out of the local lakes here, so Jordan Lake or Sharon Harris. And then I'll take fresh bait up to usually Carr Lake or Gaston, and I'll fish them cut bait, and either drift or spot lock or slow trolling has actually worked really well for me in the winter. And most of the fish I catch are in a maybe 10 to 15 pound range, but every once in a while I'll catch something 30 to 50 pounds.
Dude, that's massive.
Yeah.
And then how do they act on scope? What have you noticed behavior-wise with cats when you see them on the scope?
So I put live scope on my kayak a couple years ago. I think a lot of people just love the newest gadgets and technology, but it really teaches you a lot about fish behavior. And so when I spot lock and fish for catfish, I've found that there's a surprising amount of fish that will come up and inspect the baits or mouth the baits, but they won't take it. So you may be sitting there for a while and you think, well, there's nothing here at this spot. Well, you'd be surprised. There can be a lot of fish that come up to it and they don't bite it for some reason. And one of the most eye-opening experiences I had a couple years ago when I first got it is I was fishing towards the end of the day, probably like 2 or 3 o'clock. And I usually like to fish with at least one big bait for potentially a big fish. So I think I was fishing with a large perch head, and I had what looked like a submarine come up from the bottom. And initially I thought, it's just a bait pod, and it started swimming off. But then when I watched it turn around and I could see the fins on this thing, and it was 5 feet long, I mean, my heart started racing. And my girlfriend was a couple feet away, cracking jokes. I was like, don't move. So I was, anticipating a big takedown. And it came up to my bait, smelled it, and then it just went away. And I was kind of crushed, but at the same time, what it taught me there is those baits I had on ice for a couple of days. After that, I always went to fresh bait. So either bait I caught the day before or the day of, to give myself a better chance of catching a fish that big.
We had a question come up on Instagram. I just want to make sure that I get this. And again, guys, if you want me to share your question on the screen so everyone can see it, comment on Facebook or YouTube. Instagram doesn't let me share it because it's a stupid platform. But it was, do you usually use cut bait, I think is what cut bait or artificial for catfish when you catfish?
So definitely fresh cut bait. You can use live bait as well, but another interesting thing that I came to find is when I do use live bait, for fishing for catfish, I catch a lot of bass. I've caught several either spotted or largemouth bass in like 40 foot of water fishing live white perch. And it happens pretty frequently, so I try to avoid that if possible. So cut bait tends to work better for me in that respect.
Do cats and bass approach a bait the same, or do they each have a unique kind of body language?
So when I'm watching fish on the live scope especially, the catfish tend to be a little bit slower, and when you observe a lot of fish, you kind of can see their body styles more. Bass, whether they're largemouth or I see a lot of stripers too on the live scope, especially in car, they're very fast. So that kind of distinguishes what it is. And then the bites are different too. Catfish will like kind of sniff it a lot sometimes, and whereas the bass, like they'll come up to it, they'll grab it, and they'll just kind of take off. And they don't fight quite as hard. I use pretty heavy gear, so most of the time a 5 or 6 pound largemouth doesn't do much on a heavier or extra heavy rod.
Yeah. What's your setup then for catfishing generally?
So I do 2 basic styles there. I'll slow trawl for them, and I'll put 2 rods out the back, and I actually use planer boards, which I got that from another excellent catfisherman that I met here, Zach Royce. He had the state record catfish twice in a 24-hour period, so he's very knowledgeable. So if I'm slow trawling, I'll put 2 rods out the back, dragging just straight behind the kayak at a shorter distance. The rods on the side that are on planer boards, and they'll be out 200, 250 feet. Actually, I have video a lot of this stuff. I have
Promote it, pimp it out.
I have a growing YouTube channel. It's kayak_Chris. And so I show a lot of these setups and the catches that I have, both with and without live scope, and it's all kayak based. So, and I'm learning myself. Again, I like to do a lot of different types of fishing. Catfishing is one of my passions when it gets cold, and I'm getting better at it. Every year I learn a little bit and how to improve. So,
do you have a memory so far that sticks out in your mind when you got to video for YouTube, but you got to capture something cool on camera?
Yeah, I've had some like kind of crazy things happen that I managed to get on video. So one of the trips we did last year, my girlfriend and I, we like to do a lot of fishing trips. We went to Tennessee to fish a spillway there for stripers, and so basically you catch skipjack there, you fish them, you drift with them, and the striper come up and they're supposed to hit them. Well, we were doing that, and the herons and the ospreys around there are just looking for whatever's floating by, and I managed to catch an osprey, both coming down like a dive bomber, in the video. So it came down and it grabbed my fish, which I guess was at the top of the water, and then my reel started screaming. And it was crazy. So the first time when I closed the bail, it dropped the fish, and then I kind of laughed about it, and then reset. That stupid bird came back a second time, and the second time I hooked it, and then I panicked because I didn't know what I was going to do. And if you've never seen an osprey up close, they are freaking big, and they are scary. I mean, and their talons, they're like a good, I don't know, inch and a half. I ended up having to just kind of cut the leader as close as I could. I just didn't want to risk injury to myself and the bird. So
it's not worth it.
But that was kind of crazy, and it's all on video.
Dude, yeah, those birds they're everywhere too. I mean,
Yeah.
I fish the tidal Potomac a lot, and it's just, they're everywhere. And I'm starting to see them up in my smallmouth country too, on the Shenandoah and the upper Potomac River as well. More bald eagles as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what the bald eagle situation is down here, but they're almost like pigeons. They're everywhere. It's insane.
There are a lot of eagles around here. We see a lot on Jordan Lake especially. There's some bird clubs that monitor them. I've been out before with a guide that knows the eagle population so well. He can take a fish, whistle, wave it in the air, and the eagle will start to circle. He'll pitch it out, and the eagle will come down and dive for it. It's like freaking amazing. I mean, it's almost like a pet. So yeah, they're beautiful birds.
That's crazy. What do you have any goals or anything this year when it comes to just fishing in your YouTube channel and what you're doing with the club?
Yeah. So the goal, I guess, is we'd like to grow the club. Obviously, I really love kayak fishing. I'd like to see that grow more. Like to get more anglers out on the water in their kayaks and frankly expand their horizons beyond just maybe lakes and ponds. I know a lot of people bass fish. Bass are fun to catch, but there is so much more beyond just catching bass. One of the first fishes that we aim for in the season, shad, when they start running up the rivers in February and March, they are fantastic to catch. They're super fun to catch on like a medium light rod. They're like baby tarpon in the river system, and you can catch on a good day, you can catch dozens, sometimes even like 100 of them if they're really stacked up.
Yeah, I think that happens on the one place, like the James River, has a consistent shad migration. And
yeah.
Is it like an ultralight or a trout rod, basically, you want to use?
So we, down here, a lot of the run, Roanoke River is where a lot of people focus, but I like a medium light action rod. It's got enough backbone for if you catch a bigger shad or two of them at a time. And I've also caught some early season stripers before fishing for shad, so you never know what you might catch. But medium light action spinning rod, 20-pound braid, and then a shad rig, which is a jig head, and I like a spoon trailing behind mine.
There you guys have it. We have covered a lot of stuff, and I know you're probably a really busy man. I don't want to keep you here for 10 hours. Is there anything else that we want to make sure that we hit on and promote? I see you have a couple of flyers right there. If you want to hold one up to the camera so people can see it and screenshot it, more than welcome to.
Sure. So again, Raleigh Saltwater Club. This is the main reason I was here. We're going to have our kickoff meeting on January 21st at Laurel Hills Community Center in Raleigh. We're going to go over our tournament format there. Kind of the benefits of being in the club. We have 8 to 10 outings a year with members where you can share a boat and get out and fish for some amazing things for very low cost. And then we also have a gear swap coming in February. So if you've been accumulating stuff for a long time, it's a great way to get rid of it. It's a great way to buy more stuff for cheap. That is February 18th at Vicious Fishes in Cary.
Awesome stuff. I did have one more question I wanted to make sure we check on here, which is when you're going saltwater fishing, how big of a black box do you have? How much gear are you really taking so you can be successful?
It really depends on, I guess, what you're targeting. If you're going in the back bays, some people just like it really simple. They like to bring 1 or 2 rods, a couple of extra baits and stuff because things to get broken off and chewed on. I pack a lot more if I'm going to be out all day somewhere where I might need some more things. So if I go to the Bay Bridge Tunnel in Virginia Beach, got a big cooler for fish there, more rods for more variety. It's going to vary. A lot of it is trial and error. I'd say maybe start out with less gear to begin with and then add more as you get more experience and you find you need stuff.
There you have it. All right, sir, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. Again, just one more time, because I know we got a bunch more people that just tuned in. YouTube. Hit your YouTube channel again.
Yeah, so YouTube is kayak_Chris. I fish out of my Old Town Autopilot for a variety of species, and I'm always interested in trying something new.
There you have it. All right, guys, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to go on a quick little break here, about 20 minutes before we get our next guest on. Fill up your coffee, stretch out your legs, and we're going to be back here Boom. All righty, everybody. We are back live. I am here with the legend himself, Buka. Sir, thank you so much for coming back on the show. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Glad to be here, man.
You've been busy.
Yes, we have. Been swamped over there. Absolutely.
Over the past couple of years, did you really see this thing take off the way it has?
It's been taking off for quite a while. I mean, I was at the very beginning, and I pretty much, I was one of the first guys east of the Mississippi to make baits full time. I don't think there was anybody else besides me. Most of the stuff was out west. And we spearheaded a lot of the things that you see nowadays. We're in retailers and stuff. So we've kind of grew it ourselves, and it's been a long process. A lot of people had doubts that it would work, and $50 plus or even $200 plus for a bait. But it's been a long road. It's been a lot of marketing. It's been a lot of teaching, a lot of education. But did I ever think it would get this far? I did. I knew, I believed in what we were doing, and the baits work. The big swim bait thing really works, whether it's my baits or anybody else's. They really do work a lot better than a lot of conventional size baits, especially for trophy size fish. So I knew there would be a following, but I wasn't aware of the challenges to grow that segment. And one of the things that we did is we started working with ABS type baits, getting people in at a lower price range, getting some success on those baits, and then bringing them into the resin market. Hopefully they have success with a cheaper bait. The more expensive bait should be better. Mm-hmm. That's usually the ideology that we use, and it's been proving fruitful for us.
I've had people on before talking about the thing that people don't see about the industry, which is like the supply chains, getting the materials. How hard has that been to upscale when you have to get the resin, you have to get everything? Has the supply chain situation healed itself from the COVID years? Is it back to where it was, or is it still kind of tough sometimes to get what you need?
As far as scaling, is that what you meant? That was some tricky stuff, There's some things that we had to do internally in order to make more baits. Some of it's common sense, some of it's not. I actually studied industrial engineering my first 2 semesters in college, and I learned a lot in those first two semesters. I didn't end up majoring in it, but I'm an efficient guy. I like to do things efficiently, smoothly, and streamline things. That's something I've always been a natural at. And that, along with the restaurant business, has really been very fruitful. Customer service, being able to wear different hats and stuff. So the scaling part has been really difficult. We're one of the better people at it. We have 125 retailers. We have a storefront. We do 9 shows a year. And we do social media. It's one thing to make 1,000 baits. It's totally different selling 1,000 baits,
You were in the restaurant business?
Oh, yeah.
I never knew that about you.
I was a restaurant manager for 15 years. I majored in restaurant management.
Oh, my God, that's cool.
I was a general manager for Ruby Tuesday. I was a manager for Longhorn Steakhouse. So I have a lot of high-end customer service experience, and that has been extremely fruitful in our business, making sure that you're approachable, making sure that people can get a hold of you if they have a problem or they need something or they have a question. That's been very, very key part of what we're doing.
It's funny because I've talked about this before, like the Chick-fil-A effect of having great customer service and having a person. Everyone wants to automate now and not be the person that picks up the phone. And it's almost like now people crave to just have a human to talk to. It's crazy.
Right, yeah. I tell you, Chick-fil-A is the model to have. I mean, those guys, well-oiled machines. Even though that line's wrapped around the building, I mean, they have got it going on. Yeah. And that is a great business model to look at, to have in any business, not just the swim baits and stuff. But being approachable, I'm hard of hearing. I am completely deaf in my right ear, and I have 50% hearing in my left ear. So I'm lifting with a hearing aid in my left ear. So I do a lot of texting, PMs, emails, Instagram. I'm probably spread out too many avenues to get a hold of me, So I spend a great deal of time, probably too much time on my phone. answering questions for people, and hey, they want to learn. There's a very open niche right now to teach people how to fish swim baits. They kind of lose their mind when these bigger baits when they shouldn't. But there's a lot of things that we want to do on that end to help people get started in our industry as far as how to fish them, how to catch fish on them, what knots to use, what rods to use, what line to use, why, and not just point them to, hey, use this and you'll be all right, but tell them the whys and hows behind it and the experience that you have along the way. So.
It is big relative to the area of the country, or do you feel like at a certain size, everyone gets afraid of the bait, whether it's like, 6 inches is too big, or does it just depend on whether you're in Georgia or New York?
I think you'll have different levels, skill levels of people in all markets. Surprisingly, we sold a lot of 11-inch baits here today.
Wow.
Yeah, and even I was surprised, that we sold as many as we did. We're down to our last few, in fact. But we sold a lot of 4-inch baits too. So there's different skill levels, And I think what you're seeing is you're seeing the word of mouth. People buy these baits, they have success on them, whatever size they are. Their friends hear about it, see it, whatever, and then they get into it, So the customers are self-educating more customers for us. And they're growing that market for us. That's one of the ways that you're going to grow it, is be able to have your customer base help you with that. So, but it varies from market to market, Some markets do very well in topwater baits. New England especially. If it floats, it sells in New England.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they don't do they catch them on glides up there, but most of their market is very good in topwater.
Did you see the entrance in the boon and the striper industry? Because I've seen pics of you and other friends that fish glides. I never even thought at the beginning, like, of course, that works. But it just seems like that's its own market now, because everyone are using your baits specifically to target these massive stripers.
That's actually a market that I've been getting into over the past 3 years. I have become a striper nut. I am infatuated with them, and where you catch them is half the fun, I'm jet boating up shallow rivers and very dangerous and very scenic but very remote type areas, and catching them in 5 foot or less. And that's something that I plan on tackling very, very soon, is to appeal more to the striper market, making more baits that appeal to those type of people.
Would that be an adjustment in just the heavy dutiness of the material that you use in the baits to deal with that? Is that kind of the mindset there with that?
I think that's part of it. Some of it's hardware, some of it's size, some of it's profiles. Because stripers eat different profiles in different areas. Making sure they they don't fall apart is obviously a very challenging thing. But our materials are super strong. It's very, very difficult to, unless you whack them inside of a concrete wall or dock, very errant casts. They're very strong. They're very durable baits. The only thing you really need to upsize is your split rings, maybe, and your hooks.
Okay.
And your equipment that you use to fish them. Braid and rods and stuff. But yeah, it's an easy adjustment to do. It's not hard. The one thing I've learned in the past few years, I don't think you throw a bait big enough for a striper not to hit it. They are suckers for, the bigger the bait, they just come unglued.
It's crazy, and checking you out on social media and other friends, they smoke your baits.
Yes.
It's insane.
That's the closest you can get to peacock bass in America. That's amazing.
You're not joking. If someone wanted to dabble in that specifically, is it you go full in with the heavy gear, heaviest as possible, to be able to deal with that impact of that bite? Like, what would you suggest people get rod and reel and line wise?
I have a rod that I designed for Gary Dobbins. It's an 836 swim bait rod. It's a bull shad rod. You can get it on any place that sells Dobbins. It's rated up to 8 ounces. We actually need something heavier than that for even some of the bigger baits that I'm trying to make. But reels, I like 300 or even better 400 series reels. Wow. And braid, I'm a huge fan of braid. The biggest thing with braid that I like is to be able to get those big hooks into the fish's mouth. You can, with mono, you have to have perfect form. If you're throwing a cast, long cast, you're making these long 30, 40-yard casts with these heavy baits, super easy to do. But when something hits out there, you got to get all that stretch out of there. That's the biggest concern. A lot of people say, well, my hooks are bending. Your hooks are bending is because you're not penetrating. You're on the tips, and it's going to open. If you get them here, it's not going to it'll be less apt to bend. So getting those hooks in those large fish and being able to keep them on there is key. So bigger equipment, so 400 series reels, 300 series reels in some instances. You don't need it for the line capacity, but you need it for the winching capacity.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, yeah. And I prefer 7-3, 7-to-1 ratio, especially if you're using glides or in multi-segments, because if you're in current, you need to be able to keep up with it, you know, or you're going to get the buzzbait effect where you throw it out there with a 5-to-1, you're trying to catch up with it. You don't want to work yourself hard. So those higher speed reels are key in that market.
Where do you think the next inland striper record will come from? Is it kind of the places you're dabbling in, or you think a secret place that you don't want to mention?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about the New England market for as far as bigger stripers and what the record is. I know down in Georgia it's like 40-something pounds.
That's a pig.
Yeah, and that's a river striper.
Wow.
You know, we have very small rivers, you know, sometimes 20, 30 yards wide, and shallow and rocky and shoaly and all that kind of stuff. You know, we don't have the big, massive stripers as much as you guys have in Virginia, Tennessee. 30 pounds is a big striper for us, real big, you know. 40 pounds, that's up there. But I'm in the 30-pound range now. I haven't caught one in the 40s yet, but I go into Tennessee, you'll probably get those bigger stripers a little bit more plentiful up there than we have them in Georgia.
That's nuts. I mean, guys, you got to definitely go try this out for striper. And I know there's a bunch of bass people watching as well, and I got a couple of questions there too, which is, I am shocked personally. Like, I thought there would be a barrier to entry. I thought there would be a barrier to entry with glide baits because it is scary. It's taken off completely.
Yes.
Will there be an arc? Will fish get educated to this, and people need to get better with understanding how to use each glide bait? Can fish be pressured to a glide bait? And I guess is the question.
Yeah. You're asking how do people adjust to pressure? That's an ongoing thing, you know. I know that if you find new waters that are not hit with swim baits, they are a whole bunch more productive than those people that pound them all the time. But you have to think of it like this. The reason they excel as much as they do is because there's not as many people throwing them as conventional. They haven't seen the bigger baits. I mean, yeah, swim baits are growing, but it's still not conventional size. You know, you got our little segment in the market, and then you've got the whole fishing segment. It's like 1% or 5% of the whole entire market. So you still have that advantage by throwing bigger baits that they haven't seen before. And a prime example is if you go to a pond. I had a guy that lived in North Georgia. He says, Mike, I can't catch these big fish. And he didn't know I was a swim bait guy. He was just a friend. And I went up there and I put a 9-inch bait on, and I started catching them 30 pounds, best 5. And he's like, I've thrown chatterbaits, I've thrown frogs, I've thrown topwater, I've thrown worms, I've thrown jigs. It takes me a year to catch that many good fish. And it's just because they haven't seen that before. And that's what makes them work, is the people that think they're too big. When you have that many people, that's what makes it even work even better, because that's what they feed on. Those big bass don't get big by eating little bitty minnows. They get big by eating big forage. You know, that's one thing you talk to the biologist next door to me in my booth. He says, you need big bluegill, you need big gizzard shad. They don't get big by eating minnows. So, and that's one of the key things. And that's why you see a lot of followers, big followers following your bait, is those fish want to eat those bigger baits. It's kind of like me sitting on a couch and my wife brings a peanut and puts it on the counter. I ain't getting off the couch with that peanut. But you put a T-bone on there, I'm getting up off the couch and I'm going to go eat that T-bone. You know, that's enough to make it worth my while. All we want is we want to be a fishing eaters and feeders. We want to eat our T-bone and go back to the couch. We don't want to chase peanuts all over the place.
Why do you think fish will track a big swim bait but not commit to it? Is it the vibration they're picking up? Is it the size of the bait?
I think a little bit to do with fishing pressure. They're getting smarter. They are not in the mood. They're not in the feeding mood. All things. You can tell if a fish is catchable by how close he is to your bait. You know, if he's right on the nose of it, probably a very catchable fish. But if he's 4 or 5 feet behind it, chances are harder that you're going to get that fish. But when you move that guy to the right and he's like this, and you move it to the left, he's right on it, that fish is possibly catchable. He may see you. That might be part of it too. That's one of the key things that I tell people if they're having followers, back up. You're too close to where they are. Give them more room to commit. Because if you're fishing at spinnerbait, roll cast, distance, that's not a lot of room. These fish are not getting big by being dumb. You have to hunt them like deer. You know, you have to change your approach and change your angles and give them more room to commit. Make those more longer, accurate casts at docks, at trees, at laydowns, at grass lines, and that kind of stuff. And that's where the braid comes in, so you can hook them at those longer distances.
So really, for people that are listening, you know, you don't have to be worried about line shy. Braid is the best thing to use.
I get that asked a lot. For years, I was a big fan of monofilament. Big fan. All lines have their disadvantages, you know. Mono, no exception. Mono has stretch. That's the biggest downfall of mono. Great knot strength, lasts forever, cheap, but it has that line stretch, you know. You hear a lot of people saying, well, they're going to see my line, they're going to see my line. I took it upon myself, Mike, I'm going to change the 80-pound braid, and I'm going to fish it for 2 years. And I caught the snot out of fish on that thing. You know, I had the same revelations as everybody else. They're going to see your line. But then I asked myself, well, hell, they see the A-rig wires. Why that doesn't bother them, so why are they going to mess with the line? If there ain't any pink swim baits, why are they worried about a black line that kind of blends in? You know, there ain't even bone swim baits. So it kind of makes you think, you know. I try to do my own research and development and not listen to what the book says and what people think. Sometimes you can't use logic when you think about fishing, because until we get one down the interview, you don't know what the hell they're thinking. You really don't. You know?
Is the size of the glide more important than color?
I do believe that. If you look at my lineup of baits, I've got 5-inch, 6-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch, and 11-inch glides, 1-inch increments. And over the years, I've seen where they key in on certain sizes more than others. You know, I found that to be very, very, that's one of the new things that I'm learning about some of the fish. I fished 8-inch, 9-inch glide for largemouth in the river. They will not touch that thing. And I said, well, surely if they're here, I know they're in here. But when I went down to a 6-inch glide, wow, it was nuts. I caught 2 5-pound spots. So, I mean, they normally hit big glides, and even the largemouth. So size is very important. Even when you go to Mexico, you'll find out even more important in Mexico.
Really?
When I fish, they want little baits. There ain't nothing you can do to them to get off of it.
You're kidding.
It's odd. I have no reason or rhyme or reason for it, but that is why I think that size is really, really important. Profile, size, and action. Key 3 things that I look for in a glide bait.
I would have lost money on that
bet.
Man, I would have lost money if you told me in Mexico they would rather have this than this. That's fascinating.
They will hit big ones there, but there are times where they're stubborn, and you got to throw a 1/4-ounce rattle trap. I've seen it many, many times.
That's crazy. I know you're going to be here at Raleigh. What are the other shows that you guys are going to be at and have a booth at?
I'm trying to get into Richmond. I'm the next in line for Richmond. I'll be in the East Tennessee show in Knoxville. I'll be at the Cartersville, Georgia show in Georgia. I'll be at the Classic in Fort Worth. I will be at the New England show in Massachusetts. And I will be at a show in California to be announced.
Wow.
Yes.
You are a busy man.
I'm running around, man. I'm running around.
Is there anything, if people want to go to one of these shows, what are your debuting? What kind of baits do you have available for people at these shows?
We have glide baits, custom painted glide baits, custom painted burritos, which is our silicone paddle tail bait. We have new sizes of the glide bait. We went down to a 5-inch glide bait. We went down to a 4-inch burrito, and we also went into an 8-inch burrito called a chimichangas, which is a big one.
I like that name.
Trying to keep with the Mexican theme there. So, but yeah, we've got a lot of new products that we're going, and I've got a boatload more of them coming. And we're working on a lot of baits with GSM Outdoors that we did with the Buka brand, and we're really working to grow that brand a lot.
The last question I have for you is, when you decided to do a 5-inch bait or 4-inch, is that a year until it becomes available to the public? Is it 2 years when you think the idea to it being available?
Most of the time, with the trick shad, I've had that bait out for 2 years already. Once you dial in one side, it's very quickly you can dial in the other side. Now, if it's a new, whole, completely different design, I like to take my time a little bit more, making sure it's durable, it swims right, we can make it, we can be consistent with it, and really do the R&D really detail. Sometimes I've had baits. I had one bait take me 4 years, and it was just a matter of finding the right action that I wanted. I had that live gizzard bait in my drawer for 3 years, and I could not get that dang tail to swim the way I wanted it to swim. And I finally found a lip design that made it happen, and it swims like no other. And that was one of those rare instances where I'm not working on this thing 3 years straight. It's just put it in a drawer thinking, what can I do different? Or I have to order some supplies, or it doesn't turn out like I want it to. And then you learn something 6 weeks later. We could try that, and we go back to that. So I've got a lot of baits that are in the drawer just waiting for odds and ends and stuff.
Mike, I mean, I want to be thankful of this guy's time, because guys, we're busy here at Raleigh today, which is crazy. People aren't afraid of the weather. So guys, go check him out. Go check him out on social media and come to one of these expos that he's at. I really appreciate you coming on the show, sir. It's been awesome. We're going to go to a quick commercial break here, guys, so we can get our next guest.